Hello, guys, and welcome to Heels Off at Home. It is only right that us girls came together to give you a lovely quarantine edition to get you through lockdown.
During this lockdown, we're going to be talking about everything from life to relationships and, of course, current affairs.
Have you guys done your attachment test?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually saw it. I saw it on Twitter. I didn't know what it was before, but I was on Twitter and I saw like loads of people sharing the link to do it and talking about it.
Did you guys pay for your test? Because I think I was scammed.
What?
No, it was free.
You paid for your test?
See, I knew it. You're like, I'm burning.
God.
What?
No, but Rita, there was one link. How could you get it so wrong? There was
was there a link?
How much did you pay?
£5, man.
£5.
That's money, you know.
You got money.
I'm burning. I was just like, because it was on psychological today. So I was like, that must be the right one.
I don't know.
I'm burning, guys. I'm not going to lie, you know. That £5, because I haven't been spending any money. So I'm actually burning that everyone done it for free.
Oh, Bella, sorry.
But yeah, with this one, I was actually quite surprised with my result. I got secure. And I was kind of like, I legit wasn't expecting that at all, because I was thinking I would not have thought that I would be secure.
How comes?
I think because I've been someone that has been quite on my own for so long, but a lot of the questions are based on relationships because of, you know, how it's worded in terms of, are you fearful that your partner might leave you and stuff like that? So I wasn't really quite sure. And obviously I've not been in like loads of relationships. So I was thinking I wouldn't even know if these questions are even going to apply to me, because I thought that I would be someone that would be quite, I can't remember the names for all of them. Maybe when you guys explain your ones,
it'll come back.
Some of them, like I'm like, I could have maybe been that when I read all the other ones, because there were bits of the other ones that stood out to me in terms of like, okay, that could have been me, or I could relate to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It might be worth us outlining what the 4 types are before we talk about like our type. So there's obviously like secure, which is what you are, Amina. There's anxious preoccupied, there's avoidant dismissive, and there's fearful avoidant.
Yeah. And your girl, I did the test. So I did 2 tests actually. So I did the one test, and it broke it down into percentages. So funnily enough, one of the percentages, well, the majority-ish, I got 30% secure. So I was like, oh, okay. But then I also got like 30% anxious preoccupied, and then like 15% fearful avoidant, and this and so on and so forth. So I was just like, okay, I'm clearly between secure and anxious preoccupied. So I did another test, and then it kind of came up that I was anxious preoccupied, and it kind of put me on like a diagram. And it was quite interesting, because what it basically said about me is that I'm very confident in being able to display my emotions. So I know that quite well. Like, I'm quite forthright in how I feel, how I express it. I don't really have a poker face when I'm in a relationship. So if I'm concerned about something, I want to talk. I'm like the talker. Let's talk about it. But the anxious preoccupied bit was basically that as much as I'm confident in how my emotions are and how I feel, I'm always doubting or second guessing my partner. So I never basically believe that my partner says that he loves me, or I never believe that my partner's actually gonna stay. And when I think about my past relationships, I've definitely been that girl who's just like, oh, but does he really mean it? Like, or like, I can't explain it, but it's just like, I just don't believe them. Like, yes, I know they like me. Yes, I know they've asked me to be their girlfriend, but it's like, I need constant reassurance to kind of be like, yes, he's going to stay. Like, every argument feels like a breakup rather than it being just like a healthy argument and discussion. So yeah, I'm a bit of a needy bitch, basically. So it's news to me.
Rita, what about yours?
So mine was secure, and like Amina, I was quite surprised because I was just like, I don't know, like, I mean, I haven't been in a relationship for a long time. So I was like, I don't even know what am I like when it comes to relationships. But then some of the questions was just like a straight, like, yeah, I wouldn't care about that at all kind of thing. So yeah, I was really surprised to get secure actually. But then when it broke it down, I wasn't so surprised, if that makes any sense. Because it just would make sense. Like because I've been by myself for a while, I guess it would be harder for me to let someone in per se. So I would be quite secure in my ways in doing my own thing. I wouldn't easily be swayed like, oh, if he doesn't like something, then suddenly I don't like it either. So I feel like it's like a good and a bad thing that it will be kind of hard.
I can't be the only insecure one here. What was the breakdown? Was it like you were completely secure, or was there like a breakdown? Like what was the second?
Basically, it's broken it down. Is that English? Broken it down. Yeah. It's broken it down. Why does that sound weird? Sorry.
It's broke it down.
It's been broken down. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is wrong with me? Like, so it has basically intense need for security, which is 27%, avoidance of closeness, which is 44%. See, that's not good.
Wait, that doesn't make you're not secure then.
You're not secure. You're anxious.
Bro, let me tell
it hasn't used the terms.
Right, it says your personality type is secure attachment style. That's what it says. Remember, I paid for this as well, so you know it's legit.
So why is the breakdown like that? Because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so it says intense need for security, 27, avoidance of closeness, 44, but then it says whether it involves emotional expression or developing a deep intimate bond, you're the type of person who is at ease with getting close to a partner. You are also comfortable relying on your partner when necessary, as well as having him and her dependent upon you in times of need. But then self-esteem is 86%, so maybe that's where the secure comes from.
Okay, so maybe because if it's saying that you are 44% avoidant, then that means your attachment style, I would assume, would be avoidant, dismissive. But maybe your self-esteem is really high when it comes to you as an individual. But within a relationship, you're avoidant, dismissive. So maybe that might explain why you feel secure now. But maybe in previous relationships you didn't feel secure because the minute you bring in another person into that dynamic and you have to work as a partnership, all of a sudden it brings out the stress in you.
I was secure, but still I was 30% secure, but 30% still anxious, preoccupied on one test. So I had to do another one. So like my one said, I'm very secure in how I feel, but I'm just not secure in what the other person feels. But based on what I do know of you, Rita, not saying that I was surprised that you were secure, but I also do know that you're a little bit like, So I feel like
a little bit like, Kinney, what was that? I didn't see it.
No. I think what Mercedes is trying to say.
Yes, come, Miss Eloquence, come.
I think what Mercedes is trying to say is obviously, like we had a recent discussion, like off camera, where we had a girly chat with some wine during quarantine, and we talked about relationships. And there's obviously like an element of maybe like concern about getting close to people on the basis of how negatively you've been treated in the past by other people. So I think as a result of that might contribute to like an avoidant dismissive, because you've had experiences where people haven't treated you in a way you deserve to be treated. And because of that, maybe there's like I don't want to get close to people that. Yeah.
But maybe guys, maybe I've healed because I paid for
we talked about this on the weekend.
I paid for this test, yeah. I mean, I paid £5.25, and the test is saying,
we need another one. We need another test.
Like, it's saying it right here in black and white. Your personality type is secure attachment style. But remember in our conversation, we did say that maybe the way you see yourself, because I was talking based on what I think, but maybe I was wrong. Because the attachment set, it says, I
feel like you're probably very much secure, but there isn't a dismissive avoidant in you.
But it's not in the test.
It doesn't. Okay.
Tony, what did you get?
I got secure by about, I think it was 60%, and then that was followed by anxious, preoccupied, and avoidant were kind of on par. And you know what, I've thought, because I've talked about attachment theory before on like my Twitter, and I have a book, maybe I even have the book here. Oh, you know what, let me even promote this person's book, Attached. So someone told me about this book on Twitter because I wrote about attachment theory, and they recommended this book by this guy called Amir Levine and this lady called Rachel Heller, and it's all about, I haven't finished it yet, but it's all about attachment theory and how it affects our relationships, basically. And you know what, I think there's a lot that contributes to my security, and there are things that contribute to, I think, my avoidant, anxious sides as well. So I think the security side comes from like my parents having been married for like 30 years. I think it also comes from me having been in quite long-lasting relationships. Like I've had a 2-year relationship, a 4-year relationship, a 6-year relationship, and I'm currently in a relationship. So I think like having had different relationships that were quite long-lasting and for the most part were quite positive. And then I also think what helped is me being, I don't think people talk about this often, but me being the first out of 3, because I feel like a lot of the love that they talk about in attachment theory as a child relates to how your parents responded to you in your very early years. And I think when parents have a child and it is their first child, a lot of the time they give that child lots of attention. And sometimes that attention can kind of fizzle away with the younger generation. Not to say like my brother and sister didn't get love. They did. But I think that my parents were very, very present when I was a child as well. So I think that helped. As for like my avoidant, anxious elements, I think potentially like down to the one relationship I had as like my late teenage years or in university that wasn't so positive. And I think that may have contributed to like my avoidant element and like sometimes an unwillingness to want to be in a committed relationship at times, which sounds weird because I've had quite a few. But then in the back of my mind, it's also like, yeah, I've had all these relationships, but do I really want to get married and be tied to someone for the rest of my life? And I think that's a result of having been in situations where, like, I don't know, I question the person's commitment, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's interesting. And it's really like interesting to break it down and think about how, like, as it's crazy, like it's as much as like your parents being at work. Like I've read about it, and if you can have parents that are physically present, but physical presence doesn't always equate to the presence that you need to fulfill healthy relationships. So they might be there as in your parents are married, your parents are together, they're in the household, you know who your dad is, you know who your mum is, but if your parents are always working and they don't have time for you, just because they are there physically doesn't mean that they are there for you emotionally and mentally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I definitely relate to that, because I think when I was uncovering, because obviously once I discovered that I was anxious preoccupied, the next question that I had to ask Google was, how do I stop being anxious preoccupied? And then one article kind of broke down the why. And obviously a lot of times our attachment styles, if they aren't secure, are based on childhood trauma. And so one of the explanations was that if you are anxious preoccupied, it might have meant that you were never really sure whether your parents were going to stay for a long period or not. So a lot of times the abandonment issues come from, you know, how your parents were with you. And when I think about it, to me, it's like, well, my dad wasn't around, so that's kind of one strike. But then my mum, even though she was around and she was working hard, she was always working. So there was long periods of time where as a kid or as a teenager, I was just at home, just by myself, like doing my homework, doing whatever. So when she would come, it's almost kind of like, yes, I was attached to her and I loved her and, well, I love her and all that kind of stuff. But like our communication was always quite short, because it was just like she was going to go back to work again, or I was going to, like, you know, go to bed and get ready for school. So our periods of communication were never that long. So I'm thinking maybe that's where like elements of doubt kind of creep in the sense that I've now become so self-sufficient in like who I am as a person. I definitely know how to like get things done, and I don't necessarily feel the need to rely on anybody. That when somebody says, oh, rely on me, I'm just like, I don't believe you. So I think that's kind of like where my anxious preoccupied comes from, and from the childhood perspective. But it did say that in order to like stop being that attachment style, it's either like you do the work and like go to therapy, or your partner is secure. So they basically kind of like tilt the balance a little bit so that you become a little bit more in the middle, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good point, because I think sometimes people's attachment styles can change throughout life anyway, depending on like where they are in their life. But I think like the type of relationship you have with your partner also facilitates like whether you are more secure or not. So like you could be in a relationship with someone who has displayed behaviors that make them appear untrustworthy. And you might have been secure in your previous relationship. You could do the test, fill the answers, and cool, calm, you're secure. But in that second relationship, you might find that you're actually very anxious, preoccupied. And that's a result of the behavior that you've seen transpire within the relationship. So I feel like it's so key that you said that, because I think people assume, if you're secure forever. If you're anxious, preoccupied, you're anxious, preoccupied forever, or avoidant, whatever. But it can change according to the work you do and also the behaviors that your partner exhibits.
I wish I'd taken it before, because I feel like it's definitely changed. Like, I feel like I was I don't know, I just feel like more secure now, like, than I've ever felt. Do you know what I mean? So I just wonder, like, what it was like before, like, when it changed, and what made it change to be feeling like, do you know what I mean? Secure.
Have you done much like work on yourself and self-reflection and gone to therapy? That could be it.
Yeah, so I have done a lot of work on myself. I want to say I've been going to therapy, but I actually only went to one session. It was deep. It's a deep session. It was actually deep. Like, because you just kind of sit there, and then she's like, okay, so what do you want to talk about today? And I was thinking, hello, I want you to fix me. Like, what's wrong with me? Why are you asking me to talk, kind of thing? But yeah, I have been doing like a lot of self-reflecting, and also I've just stopped blaming myself for other people's actions. So it's just taken so much burden off of me, because before I just used to feel like everything was my fault, you know, like, oh, if I'd done this differently, this would have happened, or if I had tried doing this would have happened. But now I'm like, I'm not going to be blaming myself for other people's actions, because you're responsible for yourself and I'm responsible for myself. So as long as I can look in a mirror and I know that my intentions were pure and all of that stuff, then I'm cool. Anything else is between you and God. And ever since I started doing that, I just feel a bit more, you know, a bit more relaxed. Yeah.
I think the reason why particularly you and Amina might be so secure is, like you said, because you've gone so long without actually having to think about how your actions affect another person or another partner in particular ways. A lot of those questions, you'll just be like, no, that's not going to make me feel any type of way. That's not going to make me do this. I'm not going to be paranoid about this. So I think it is kind of like over the years, as you realize that other people's opinions don't actually affect yours and don't affect who you are, that kind of level of security kind of like balances out. I think I'm still like in that process. So that's why I have been going to therapy a lot, just to kind of make sure that I'm constantly debunking any sorts of negative thoughts about how I think other people might feel about me. Because it's just they're all imaginations. I will never know how someone actually feels about me unless they tell me. And if they're telling me that they love me, then I actually need to accept that that's what they're saying, rather than creating an imaginatory scenario in my head of them saying the opposite when they haven't said that. So it's just like, I'm trying to like learn how to get over that.
I think for me as well, like in terms of the whole insecure thing, because my last relationship, I'm the one that made the decision to leave. And despite the fact that I was really young, I was a mom to a small child, a 2-year-old, and I was just really sure within myself that this relationship wasn't for me and I needed to leave the relationship. I think from then, I think I already felt that secure in that I didn't think that I needed that person, or I think there's a downside to it, because the process of me leaving that relationship, I didn't really consider the other person's feelings or how they felt about it. Once my mind was made up, that was it. There was no like, oh, let me see what you've got to say about it. Or, you know, well, I did speak to the person about it and said, look, this is what I want. And if you can't give me what I want, then I think we should just go our separate ways, kind of thing. But I didn't it was very blunt and very like, it is what it is. Because I was so convicted within myself, and I had my own kind of zeal of what I wanted and what I felt was right, that I wasn't really concerned about the fact that, okay, this person actually loves me and cares about me, and I can't just like be so blunt and so quick to kind of just be like, you know what, bye, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that kind of plays into the whole secure thing, but I can see how that could be a negative thing if, you know, I go into a relationship and I'm not like considering someone else's feelings or thoughts about a situation. But my mum's always raised me to be someone that is like, you know what, it is what it is, like do what needs to be done, like you can't like just keep it moving. That's my mum's whole vibe is that. And sometimes that was like a bad thing, because then she wasn't really like deeping how sometimes what she's not doing would affect me. So for example, like the conversation I had with my mum when she first asked me if I was having sex, like, and she wasn't a conversation, she just kind of walked into the kitchen where I was like, I think I was loading the washing machine or something, and she just walked into the kitchen and she was like, these times she already knew that I had a boyfriend, she'd met him.
I feel like mums know when you had sex. Like mums, it's like they have like a sixth sense. Like I remember walking down the street, my mum literally called me, and I think it was literally like maybe a week or two after I lost my virginity, my mum called me and she was just like, don't come back, get pregnant. And that was it. Like she had a dream, don't get pregnant. That was it. And that's all we did. That's all we did when it came about sex. That's the only conversation we ever had. It was weird.
Yeah.
So
same
weird.
with my mum. She was just like, you better not be having any sex. That's literally what she said. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I've been popping the punani up and down, like, do you know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know. It was very strange. I think that's a lot. I think maybe that might even be something for a lot of, you know, people that have African parents background in terms of communication and things like that.
I feel like I'm definitely like in the anomaly when it comes to that, because like obviously I have 2 Nigerian parents, but my mum is so, what's the word? I don't know what, she's very like liberal in a lot of ways when it comes to her ability to like communicate. Like when it comes to sex, we talk about almost everything. Like I mean almost everything. We've had discussions about my sex life. We've had discussions. We'll watch TV and have discussions about what's going on. I'll ask her questions openly. And like I guess when I was younger, it was kind of weird, but as I got older, it became easier to the point like, yeah, like it's just so chill with her. She's very, very different in that sense. And I think that's been helpful for me because like I felt like I never had to hide anything. And as well as that, I like every time I'm in a new situation, I can talk to her openly. Like, and it's not weird. Like I remember even with like my current partner now, my mom was just like asking me casually. She was like, "Oh, so have you gone there?" And I was like, "Ah!" And then I started singing Summer Walker, "Girls Need Love Too," and she just burst out laughing. So it's like an open dialogue, and she's very nosy too, but she's like my best friend in that sense. So like when it comes to her and we've talked about everything from oral sex to sexual history.
Hey.
Yeah,
Go auntie. That could never be me. That could never be me.
Like I've even had conversations. I remember I've had a conversation about like some of the weird places I've had. I don't want to say weird places I've had sex. Like I just have sex in weird places. So no, this is very infrequent. But I remember talking to her about one particular incident about one particular incident where I had sex like somewhere that wasn't my bedroom, and then my mom was like, really? And I was telling her the details. She was like, oh, okay, interesting, all right. Like, but it's never like a judgmental approach, which is quite nice.
I'm here for it. I am here for it. I want to ask a question though. So when I was doing my, research, asking Google 101 questions, what it did say was that it gave solutions as to what you can do to stop being anxious, preoccupied. And it also said that, aside from therapy, you could be with a partner who's super secure, because then that can definitely kind of boost your security in the sense that they're so reassured, that they'll offer reassuring words. But then it also said that you want to avoid being with someone who is dismissive avoidant. Is that the fourth one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, if there's fearful avoidant, it was the fourth one, then avoidant dismissive, yeah.
Avoidant dismissive. So basically, I shouldn't, because I'm anxious preoccupied, I shouldn't be with someone who's avoidant dismissive, because whilst I am seeking reassurance consistently, they do not know how to communicate their emotions. Like, giving off emotions and being available in that aspect is like a complete no, I'm not on it. So it's interesting. Would you, if you were dating someone, do this test to see what level they're at? Because technically, if they are the complete opposite to what you are, or if they are the complete opposite to what you are, would you kind of want to avoid it, or would you want to change it? Because then that's teamwork. If you're trying to change it.
I've done this test with like two of my current boyfriend and my ex-boyfriend. I guess the result didn't matter too much to me because I was secure anyway. But I think sometimes you have an idea of people's attachment style, even though you may not know the result. And sometimes you want them to do the test as a partner just so you can like confirm, like, okay, I see these behaviors in you, I understand. I definitely think it's like worth doing even if you are secure, because it helps you navigate the relationship. Like you said, if you're anxious preoccupied, it means that you really want to hold on to the person, you're scared they'll leave you, you really, really want this fairy tale that you're creating in your head. But someone who's avoidant dismissive is very scared of commitment. They're sure the relationship was failed. They're very distant. So you guys completely clash. But at least if you know their type as a secure person, you can say, okay, like this thing that they're saying comes from this place. It comes from this avoidant dismissive place. Or this thing that they're worried about comes from this aspect of their past. So I think it's like definitely so helpful to do to navigate the relationship. Whether like, I think somewhat like whether people should leave if they're complete opposites, I think it depends on their willingness to better themselves and willingness to improve. Because like you obviously know you're anxious preoccupied, but you also know you want to change that. And I know like you go to therapy, you talk to people, like you're making this conscious effort to change that element of yourself. Now, if you're with someone who's a bit dismissive, but they are also aware that they are dismissive, they know what contributed to that in their past, and there's a willingness to change that, then I think it can work. It's only a problem if people are either completely unaware or unwilling to work on themselves.
So this brings me to, so remember, when we spoke about our ideal partners, the ideal partners that could be suited for different attachment styles, it does make me think that, Amina, Rita, if you were to go into a relationship right now, do you think you would still be secure, or do you think it could sway based on past experiences?
Do you know what?
Of how you were in those past experiences.
Do you know what? I don't think I'm going to dwell how I was in my past. I feel like, especially doing this test now, I think it's quite helpful because I feel like it will make you be more aware of the kind of partner you should be with. True. So it will be a red flag if you're trying to express how you feel, because obviously we're quite secure and we feel like we should be able to express how we feel. To be with a guy that's like, come on, man, it's not every day, Rita, man, get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That would be a red flag, because it's like, whoa, you're really dismissive. And I do think, based on past experiences with friendships, family, or even like a guy that I fancy, if you brush off what I'm trying to say, I can't be cool with you because you're not allowing me to express myself. Do you know what I mean? So that's like a big red flag for me. I feel like going into a relationship, I will just be very hyper aware. Like, okay, I think you're buff, but actually you're really dismissive. And I know that if I'm with a dismissive guy, I actually know for a fact that that will mess with my security. Like, I won't feel secure in that situation. It just takes him to dismiss me like 3-4 times. And if I'm already like there, that's it. I'll be a whole new person, God forbid. Do you know what I mean? So I don't even think I can even risk it. I need to be of a guy that allows me to express myself and, you know, is quite secure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I've had people around me and situations around me that's kind of let me realize that there's certain things I just won't accept. Like, I think it's bad. I think it's wrong. And I'm also recognizing my own behavior as well in terms of how I express myself. I think me personally, I just, in terms of my personality, it's taken me a while to be able to be vulnerable with people, even people that I trust and care about, because I've always had this kind of, I don't need to talk about, you know, my vulnerabilities. I just deal with things myself. Like, I'll tell you after I'm okay. When I'm not okay, I don't feel like I need to tell anyone. It's just between me and God anyway. So yeah, so I've kind of learned that in friendships, especially, it's okay to be open. It's okay to kind of express your feelings. It's okay to kind of let the other person know if something's bothering you and stuff like that. Although there's an aspect of it in terms of being secure within myself, in terms of I'm not bothered if someone wants to leave. If you want to leave, that's your own, well, bye kind of thing. But also just understanding that there's certain things that I know that I deserve and I know that I would like in a person. And if you're not displaying those qualities, then I don't need to entertain you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think all in all, like with attachment styles, if you aren't on the secure spectrum, it's literally just fear. That is it. It's just fear that they're going to stay, fear that they're not going to listen to you, fear that you're not going to be able to be vulnerable with them in different capacities. So I think it's just important that, like, if you are anything but secure, that we need to just kind of work through that fear and kind of realize that it's all an imagination. It's all negative thoughts that we're putting into our head that's not needed. And so that kind of hyper awareness of the fact that this is all fear as to why I'm acting this type of way or not being trusting of my partner, I think that could help in just trying to become more secure and just more confident in what you want and what you believe in, and also in what the other person believes in and wants as well.
And I think also when it comes to like online tests, I think to be able to do an online test to get an accurate result, there's a like high level of self-awareness and self-reflection that is needed. And I think when you do online tests, it helps to do them with someone who knows you well, that you trust. Because I think sometimes we can think we are a certain way. When we fill in the test, it's like, you fill in the test and it's like, oh, if this happens, would this bother you? And we're like, no, it wouldn't. Whereas if you're doing it with someone, like I've done these tests with partners, and I'll be watching them fill it in and I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
That is not accurate. So it's like I think it's good to do it with a second party, because you might think you know yourself really well, and you might think you know how you behave, but it's very easy for us to be biased because we're talking about us. And when you're filling a test, like everyone wants to think of themselves highly, right? So it's like, oh, I'm cool at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm fine with this. Whereas if you're doing it with someone that knows you, they might be able to in and say, actually, no, you're really, really bothered by this, or no, you don't really take this very well. So I think it's good to do it with a second party just for that reason.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Join in the conversation by using the hashtag HeelsOfUK on socials, and we will catch you guys in our next episode.